Welcome to the Fertility Coaching Mastery Podcast. I'm Dr. Kayla Smith, fertility and hormone expert and founder of the Hormone Puzzle Society. I help wellness professionals like chiropractors, acupuncturists, doulas, nutritionists, personal trainers, and health coaches integrate fertility coaching into their work and build thriving, purpose-driven practices. I also work with beginners who are ready to step into this work and use their own painful story for their purpose. If you're ready to confidently support fertility clients, attract aligned clients, and grow a business that truly makes an impact, you're in the right place. Now let's dive in. On today's show, I have Michelle Oravitz. She is a fertility acupuncturist, author, and podcast host. After her own healing journey led her from architecture to Chinese medicine, she earned her master's degree in Oriental medicine and became board certified in reproductive medicine. She is the founder of the Wholesome Lotus Fertility, host of the Wholesome Fertility Podcast, and author of The Way of Fertility. Michelle also created the Wholesome Fertility Method, a practitioner certification program that trains wellness professionals in a comprehensive approach to fertility, supporting integrating reproductive medicine, nervous system regulation, and business development for fertility coaching. Her work is rooted in the belief that collaboration and connection among practitioners elevates the standard of fertility care for everyone. Today, we are going to talk to Michelle about building a fertility practice with real connection and aligned coaching.
To be here, Dr.
Now,
Kayla
let's welcome
Smith.
Michelle
I'm so
to the
excited because we
podcast.
just talked about how it's been too long and we've always connected since like way back when. First of all, I'm super excited for you. Congrats on this new podcast. I think it's going to be amazing. And I'm actually excited to listen to it because it's all interesting topics.
Yeah, thank you. I know we were just talking offline and I love talking about business and I have so many practitioner friends that I just want to talk to them and pick their brains and learn what they're doing. And so I was like, might as well start a podcast out of that.
Idea.
Yeah. So we're going to talk today about fertility coaching and just really building a connection and alignment with your coaching practice. And so before we get into that, for those listening who maybe don't know you, just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work.
Of course. So I, very similar to Dr. Kayla Smith, we do fertility coaching, but my background is in acupuncture. So my background, this is my previous life. I used to do architecture and I was working in corporate world. Didn't really feel very satisfied. My purpose didn't feel very aligned. It didn't really speak to my soul. It was like work, for sure. And I would find that I would like jobs that I was finding great people. And it was the people that made me like the jobs, not the work itself. Right. So I realized I really did want to work with people. And especially when my own fertility issues were resolved with acupuncture. So that definitely inspired me to learn more natural medicine. I went back to school for architecture. I left architecture and I went back to school for Ayurveda. And then I went to acupuncture. And then I realized even while I was in school that I was very interested in women's health in general. Like anytime we had a presentation that we would have to do for a project assignment, I would basically pick something, whether it's menstrual cycle, fertility, anything women's health was always just very intriguing to me. So I was always really drawn to that kind of work, and then eventually opened up my practice after finishing acupuncture school, Chinese medicine, and opened up my practice about 10 years ago. Time has flown. I don't know where it went, but about 10 years ago. And then I decided to specialize and kind of put my focus on fertility. And of course, as you know, fertility is very complex. So I learned that the hard way. And then eventually I got certified with ABORM, which is a board, fertility reproductive board of acupuncture or Chinese medicine. So you basically have to take a very rigorous test and learn the Western part, the Eastern part, really like every single aspect of the menstrual cycle, herbology specific to fertility. And then we still have to take CEUs every year, specifically fertility related. So it really keeps us up to date. And yeah, so that's my story. And then of course I brought it into online fertility coaching as well, which is distinct from what I do in person. I'm very aware of the fact that I can't, with my license, I can only do really what I'm trained to in state. So coaching has its boundaries on what I'm able to do across state lines and things like that. But I love it. It's just so cool. I love it. And I have a fertility podcast. I've trained other coaches, and just based on the holistic medicine that I've learned.
Yeah, it's so amazing. And you've done so many great things. And it's so cool to watch your journey through building your career, because I think we started around the same time. I think you were like 2016, I was 2018.
Yeah.
So we've kind of grown up together. And I just love everything that you've done. You have a beautiful practice, and you also coach coaches, and you've written a book. And so, and your podcast.
Ditto. I feel the same about you.
Podcast is amazing. So I just love everything that you do. So thank you for being here.
I feel the same exact way, honestly,
thank you.
Which is so great, which is why I feel like, honestly, like my whole thing, especially this time I'm in my 50s now, which I'm very proud of. I'm like, I'm not ashamed to say my age, because I feel like, you and I both have been taking care of our bodies. I feel like we've really learned so much. So I feel like we're kind of younger than what we are.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same. I know. I just turned 49, and I'm like so close to 50,
phenomenal.
And I'm like, I feel like I'm 25.
Totally. No, but I think also it really does, like, how we treat our bodies, the things that we learn, and really walking the talk makes a difference on how we feel. But one of the things that I always said, like, it's just sort of my goals is to surround myself with women who inspire me, and women who love to grow. They're all about like growth and doing better. And to me, that's so much fun, because I feel like I can learn. I want to be around people I can learn from.
Same. And, that's why, again, I created this podcast. And I always talk about, I want women to know that they can step into the identity of becoming a fertility coach. And so that's kind of what we're talking about here today, is being an aligned practitioner. I don't want coaches just to be transactionalists. It's 100%. Not the fertility journey and the fertility, working with somebody in that lens. It's not transactional. It's deeply connected and aligned. So talk to us about that. How is your thoughts around just being an aligned practitioner versus just transactional?
Totally. I think that, first of all, it's such a great topic to start. One of the first things that I see is, when people come to see me, especially in clinic, and they're coming in actually to get acupuncture to support IVF, that is probably the top things that I hear, is that they feel with their clinical experience or the clinic experience very much transactional. Everything's numbers. You're pretty much deduced as a human. And I hate to sound like I'm knocking anybody or, Western medicine, because there are aspects to it that are phenomenal. But unfortunately, with the system, sometimes people feel like they're taken down to a number. So rather than that kind of soul-centered approach, they feel like their spirit gets crushed because they're focusing so much on the number. Everything, it feels a little more cynical and like isn't really hopeful. A lot of what they're told isn't hopeful. And then we see later that actually a lot of what they're predicted, or, the predicted outcomes tend to be different. So I do feel like the transactional aspect of it is very much what we see in mainstream and what a lot of people experience. And I can tell you, I talk to so many people. I think that that's like one of the biggest things. They feel like a number and they don't feel like anybody's really hearing them. And they talk about what they're going through. And there's just so much miscommunication even within the system that they say one thing and they don't even get the answer that they're asking for. And, so it feels very transactional is the point, as it is. And I feel like we're here to serve a purpose and to really be there for people. And I feel like if you do things transactionally in business, you're eventually going to run out of steam, because you need that soul aspect for the meaning aspect part of it. And this is, I kind of went through it, I guess, with architecture. So because of that, I knew what I was searching for, and I was searching for more meaning. And when I had the meaning, I felt like it wasn't work, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, my father used to always say that to me. If you find something that you love to do, you're never going to work a day in your life. And that is what it's like to run a fertility practice. I mean, it's hearing these stories of women and couples who were struggling to conceive, and then they're emailing you and texting you, they got a positive pregnancy test. There's nothing better than that. And so that's definitely not transactional. And I think too, the clients and patients, they can sense when it's so clinical and it's not that healing energy and you're not aligned with your practitioner. Would you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
And I also would say that when you're coming from that place of like truly giving them like that good energy, you know what I mean? That healing energy and that nurturing, you have more energy because I feel like we're circuits, you know. I remember taking a Kabbalah class and they talked about the circuit of energy and that a circuit of energy is really what we are as humans and it needs to pass through. So basically, if you're keeping the light all to yourself, the whole circuit breaks and then you lose your light. So like in order for the light and the light to come through us, we need to give the light. We have to, and the more we give, the more we receive. And so coming at it from that place of really, truly seeing the person in front of you as like yourself or part of yourself, then you get more energy as a practitioner and as a coach, you know, there's definitely that aspect of it.
Yeah. And I love that. And I completely agree. You know, we are all just energy and we have to have aligned energy for healing. And I also think that I see it in my practice and I think you can agree to this, but whenever the practitioner and the client is aligned, that their healing even improves because they're kind of both in that same wavelength and that same energetic pattern where one is believing in the other and vice versa. Yeah.
Heart-Brain Coherence, the HeartMath Institute, they see that there is a coherent state that happens. And I believe Dr. Jill Blakeway talks about it in her book, Energy Medicine. I think it's called Energy Medicine, right? Her book. Yeah. And there's a synchronized energy. And so you're actually getting energy as well. It's pretty amazing.
I love that.
It's a more coherent, healthy energy.
Exactly. Yeah. And so talk to us if somebody's listening to this and are thinking about becoming a coach, or maybe they are a coach and they just got started. What are some signs? Maybe they're thinking, well, I don't know if I'm an aligned practitioner. Like, how would I know that? You know, I know because I can feel it. But if somebody's new, maybe they haven't tapped into that energy yet. So talk to us about that. What are some signs where you can say, okay, this is becoming transactional versus an aligned coaching method?
That's such a good question. So I would say one of the signs is when you admire other people. This is like one of the things that I used to say this with creativity. I would say, because I had a friend in college and she was always very intrigued by my artwork or, you know, other people's artwork. And I was like, you're an artist. That's why. I said, you have an artist within you that wants to emerge. And she's like, me? Never. I've never done this. I've never done that. Like, I'm like, yes, but there's something within you that is so intrigued and drawn to something that you see as an example. And that's why I find like people who you admire, they have something in you that reminds you of a seed within yourself in them. So she actually, so I kept encouraging her. So she ended up going to an art store and she ended up picking up mosaics and she created the most magnificent mosaic table that looked like you'd buy it from a store. And I said, I cannot believe you did that. Like, yes, I do art, but I would not be able to do that kind of art. So I was just like, so I say, if there are people that you see out there, whether it's like in the fertility space that you admire their information, it rings a bell, it lights some kind of inspiration within you. Information that they talk about when it comes to fertility, something that called you, that is aligned. Now, not being aligned does not mean not having challenges. Okay. Right. So like, let's get that clear, because just because you can have many challenges, just like when you're planting a seed, the seed doesn't sprout for a long time. So you have to keep feeding it, and it will eventually sprout and yield. So just because that happens doesn't mean it's aligned. I think that many people take those challenges and think that something's not aligned, and then they give up right before the sprout.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I completely agree with that. And two, I think what you focus on grows. And so the more you focus on this is a challenge and this is going to stop me and block me, the more that's what's going to show up. And then I also see practitioners will quit before they ever get started, or maybe they won't ever even get started. They'll just want to get started, but they never do because they're blocking themselves and they're focusing on these challenges that are in my way.
Yes, and I just like you've probably heard this before. We've interviewed a lot of people. And so I've interviewed people that have been incredibly successful. And I would talk to them about, oh, wow, I think what you're doing is amazing. And they're like, it only took me about 12 years to be an overnight success. So
Right?
it takes time. It takes time.
Yes.
So like all of those things take time. And so that I would say, but if you're only doing it for the money, or if you're only doing it for something that's superficial, like it's superficial, it's not like in depth, then I would say that is not the most aligned way to do it. Like I would say choose something else. Choose something that is by nature more transactional, because there are things like that to make money.
Yeah.
But this is something that I think you really need to have a sensitivity for, because people going through this are truly experiencing a lot of trauma. It's a very sensitive and delicate state. But I do think, that being said, a lot of people drawn to this are very much like that. They're coming into it for the right reason. I think they're drawn to it either because they've gone through their own fertility journey, or something that just within them, like they have a heart for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And let's talk about the nervous system. How does that play into being an aligned coach? Because I know, if you're, especially as an entrepreneur, our nervous systems hold a lot.
Yes.
And so unless we learn how to release that and tell our bodies that we're safe, sometimes we also experience blocks. So talk to us about that. How does the nervous system play into being an aligned coach?
So it's so interesting, because I've seen this in just dynamics. Like I've seen family dynamics, whatever, like when you're in a state of fight or flight or sympathetic, and I feel like the word fight or flight, or the term, makes it sound negative, and it's not negative. It's actually, as you know, just from the Dutch test, like you actually need cortisol in the morning. You need to have a sympathetic response to wake you up. So that's actually a very important part of your nervous system, to have that sympathetic. So it's not always fight. It's not always flight. Sometimes it's a very, very strong alert. Now, when it gets too heightened, you could start feeling like you're in scarcity. So I believe that scarcity mindset comes from being chronically in a fight or flight state. And there's not enough to go around. I have to fight to get my share. And I found that, as probably you have as well, there are some practitioners out there that are not very collaborative. They get angry if you use the same word or something, and and it's kind of like there's plenty to go around. It's not like I'm gonna take away all your people or whatever, So it's that kind of like, and it's really coming from a survival state of mind. And so, and then I've had other people that are so generous and so open and so like there's plenty to go around. And I'm gonna name Amy Raup. She's been my mentor.
I love her.
She's phenomenal. And she's so humble for like, all that she's done so much. Yeah. And she's so humble. She's so human. She's so real. And she's mentored me. She gives me so much. I'm like, how are you giving me this stuff? This is like illegal. Like, she just has such a generous belief, and she feels like there's plenty to go around. She doesn't feel lost. Something is being taken away from her, or that, it's putting her in any situation, or, to give me more information, you know what I mean? And guess what? I think that that energy of that kind of growth, and that's kind of the rest and digest, kind of, there's plenty. There's, it's a place of plenty. The more you do that, I feel like the universe, I think it's subconscious. If you believe in doing that to other people, you're going to believe that other people do that to you, and you're going to give that energy. People are going to pick it up, and more people are going to give you. So I feel like that's that kind of abundance mentality and mindset, so I do feel like the nervous system can really be pinned down to that in a big way. Yeah.
Yeah. And I see this all the time. And again, I think it goes back to what you focused on, because the more giving you are, the more the universe and God and the spirits, they see that, oh, she's generous, she's abundant, and then they give that back to you. And so it all comes full circle. So I love that you say that. And I have seen that shift too. I mean, I think it's always been happening, but I think now more than ever, there's so many people coming into this space, and even in the conventional realm, talking, like they're the only voice. And I'm thinking, we've been talking about this for 10 years. Like, no, you're not. But there's room for everybody. So come on
100%,
in.
100%. And, unfortunately, like right now we're at a state that it's so needed. It's growing. Like the fertility challenges are growing. So there's more need for more people. And I think that there's no accidents. No accidents happen.
Yeah.
More people are drawn to this because more people are needed. You
Yeah.
know?
I completely agree. Yeah. And I think we need to all come together as one and help the 1 in 6
100%.
people that are struggling globally. That's like 1.3, I think it's million or billion people worldwide have fertility issues. It is insane.
Sad.
So it's sad. And so I definitely agree. We all need to come together.
Yeah, for sure. And we all have our gifts too. I think that collectively we all have our superpowers, you know, and we can help each other. And so there's so many times where I actually, like, even though I do a lot of similar things, I will send people or refer people out to other holistic practitioners that I think can help my patients. That I'm like, okay, you know, I do a little bit of this, but I think you should go to this person who does more, and you'd be helped, because it's a patient-centered mentality of really helping them. Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Well, let's also talk about working as an aligned practitioner. And sometimes, you know, we said this earlier, that fertility coaching is, we're working with a lot of sensitive patients and emotions and frustrations. And sometimes as a practitioner, you can absorb those emotions. And so how do you work where you can still be that person that the client needs without taking on that energy and, you know, having that energy affect you and your health?
I love that question. That is like such a great question. I think that a lot of people want to know that. Like, I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I was so lucky because you know, every so often you hear, like, there's certain things that you learn from certain teachers that don't leave you. And one of the things that one of my teachers said, and I remember it struck me, like, I was, you know, studying Chinese medicine. He was a practitioner of Qigong as well. And he was teaching us traditional Chinese medicine, like the theory. And the first thing he said, almost like it must have been either the first week or the first day, is you have to work on your qi before you can work on healing other people. And that struck me. He said, meditate, take care of yourself. Those are the things that will basically, so in Chinese medicine, we have something called Wei Qi. Wei Qi, so qi, life force vitality, is really what animates us. It's like, it's really what gives life to a body. And I think it probably does even more than that. I don't think that words can really describe it. I think it's way more, you know, vast and mysterious than what we can even really pin it down to.
Right.
But there's also many different types of qi throughout the body that kind of, like your word puzzle, they fit like a puzzle to make the whole, right? So we have one for food, one for our energetic system. It's basically the one that not energetic. It's the immune system one, and it's around, or it like surrounds us, almost like a tight aura. But I believe that not only is good for your immune system. I think that same qi is what wards off any kind of energy like leakage or other energy penetrating in. So it's a spiritual immune system as well.
Yeah.
That's my belief. I don't know that that's how they teach it, but I think that it's both, it's one and the same. I think that our immune system responds to our energetic system as well. And so when we work on our energy, and that gets stronger by taking care of ourselves through, whether it's Chinese medicine, acupuncture, taking care of ourselves, doing things, yoga, like movement, meditation, really as a whole, we are so much better at healing others. And I don't care if it's through Zoom. It doesn't have to be a physical energy. It's still an energy. Like when you're connecting on Zoom, you're connecting. There's some kind of other energy in quantum physics. Everything's entangled. There's, even if it's far away, you're still connecting. So it's all super connected in every way. And it doesn't matter. The distance really doesn't make a difference. So that's my thing. So I will not miss my yoga. I will not miss my meditation. If I feel like I need to connect, I will connect. To me, that's like charging my charger, my body's charger, my mind's charger into the ultimate plug. You know, that's kind of like plugging it in. And so that for me is how I remain centered, and I don't allow anything else to really rattle me. And I feel like just the more I've done that over years, it's had a cumulative effect. I do acupuncture on myself. Self acupuncture. It's probably better if I go somewhere, but I'll take what I can get, with a busy lifestyle. But that is what really feeds my busy lifestyle. I could be very busy, but I could still feel really good. I have more energy and I feel more grounded than I did when I was 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I love that. And I completely agree. And that you made such a great point, because energy has no space or time bounds. Mm-hmm. It is endless and it's vast and it's everywhere. And so connecting in that way, I think is so powerful. So I love that you say that. So I want to switch gears for a minute and talk about the business side a little bit more. So, and we're talking about being an aligned practitioner, and we're, sometimes in our business, we're bringing in patients and clients, this is transactional, but you reframe sales as more enrollment and more of an act of service versus just selling somebody something or selling a product or a service. So talk to us about that. How do you, talk to us about the reframement of sales into more acts of service or enrollments?
Well, I mean, people, even when they're coming to you and they want to know like what it is, they want to be seen. They want to know that like what they're trying to, even when you're writing a sales page, you gotta see what they're going through. You literally go into their footsteps, into their shoes, and understand what is it that they're experiencing that they need resolved. And then, of course, give them the value, instead of just going up with a price, give up the value. And so that, there's something there that is, because ultimately that's going to feed your business too. Because if a person has a really good experience, that's going to give you testimonials. It's going to have them share their experiences with other people. So really seeing the person from start to finish. So when you start even writing your sales page, you got to see the person. You really experience that. Ask questions, and that's another thing. You can do surveys, ask questions as you're talking to clients, working with clients. Asking those questions really helps to understand what it is that they're going through. Like I went through my own reproductive issues when it came to my period, but not when I got pregnant, because I had gone through that prior to even trying. Yeah. However, I probably would have had many challenges getting pregnant because I don't even know if I was ovulating. So I can't say that I know exactly what it feels like to have specifically fertility challenges, but I do know what it feels like to have reproductive challenges because I had them. So just by listening and really having conversations and collecting information, I can start to really put myself in their shoes over time. I feel like I know it. I just from empathizing, like really, really empathizing and hearing and having them cry in my office. And, so it's really like hearing them. And I think that by now, when people do book discovery calls, they know, they can feel that I can see them. So I'm here to really address what it is that you're coming to me for. It's not just like, oh, here, A, B, and C, like works for everybody. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And I think people can feel that. And that's such a good point about, making sure that your sales page is not just a sales page. It's not just words on a paper. It is an aligned, experience for the client that might be coming to you. And they feel like, oh, this person gets me. This person is talking directly to me and they know what I'm struggling with. And that's the person I want to work with. Yes. And so again, I think there's so many different clients and patients and so many different things that people need coaches for. There's enough room for everybody. And so that's a really good point. And I wanted to point out too, whenever you're just getting into coaching, think about your avatar. I know a lot of people don't like that word, but you do have to think about who's the person that you want to work with. What is that person? What are they feeling and struggling with, and their likes and their dislikes, and really think about writing your sales copy based on that.
100%. 100%. It really matters because then a person feels like, oh, wow, this person's getting me, like specifically.
Exactly. And so talk to us too about how this applies to when we're collaborating, because we talked about this earlier. Collaboration I think is beautiful. It's one of the ways I've built my business. I've collaborated with so many wonderful people. I know you've done the same. So talk to us about how just being an aligned practitioner versus a transactional one will help you with collaborations.
No, it's everything. I mean, really connecting also with similar-minded practitioners or other
Yes.
coaches or people that you really feel aligned with. I think that there's this mutual connection. It's almost like
Yeah.
you feel almost like a soul connection even with other practitioners, other business people. Also, like we said in the beginning, people that inspire you, that make you want to be better and that you teach, and it's kind of a symbiotic connection. It's just amazing. And then the more you really connect, the more you will naturally grow your list because you're utilizing really other people's lists as well. So, in that sense, I mean, you're really kind of coming together and building each other up as a collective.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And do you have any tips around collaboration? I know a lot of practitioners and especially new coaches, they're kind of scared to collaborate. They don't know how to do it. And so talk to us about that, how you started your business and, some tips around collaboration.
It's so funny that you say that because the second you said that, the second you asked me that question, I was like, don't be afraid. And then you said that a lot of people are scared, and it's true. That's the first thing that happens. Okay, so I'm gonna name this. Everybody starts out feeling like an imposter. It's normal.
Yeah.
Like I still feel like that in some cases.
Yeah.
I'll try new things, and I was like, oh, who am I to say that? Like, and it's just always. But then I'm like, okay, I recognize you. You're the imposter syndrome. Like. Virus that's trying to come in. So I kind of like knock it where I'm like, I'm not gonna respond to this. And it's like the critic. And I know that because I'm an artist and when I paint, you get that cynic or the critic, coming in your head, criticizing your art, and then it wants to stop the flow. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to respond to you. Move away. I'm just going to continue. So we all have that. We all have that. It's that inner critic, that inner voice, whatever that is. That's number one. Number two, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of rejection either. So reach out to people. Like you'd be surprised at how people will actually be flattered. So don't be afraid. The same thing, like when Amy Rapp, I mentioned her. There was a time she had no idea who I was, but I loved her. I was like, she's so cool. Like she really inspired me as a practitioner because I felt like she was very heart forward. Yeah. So those were things that I was really drawn to. And then I reached out to her, had her on the podcast, and then she connected with me just like I connected with her because I think that that's the energy. Like you're drawn to people. Most likely they're going to be drawn to you too if it's like a really aligned kind of, you're drawn to them for the right reasons. You know what I mean? Like if that makes sense, you're kind of drawn to the spirit of how they are operating. So typically, if you're feeling it your way, they will feel it back when you do make that connection. So don't be afraid. That being said, I've also, when I first started the podcast, like many years ago, I reached out to some people and they were like, I was asking them, I remember one specific one, I'm not going to name names. I'm not really like friendly with them, not for any reason that I don't want to be. It's just, it hasn't happened. But I reached out to one person and they were like, I guess their assistant was like, well, they're going to pass. And I was like, okay, like, and they were in the fertility world and then they kind of like followed me years later and, so it happens. Yeah. No judgment. Maybe it just wasn't aligned for her at the time or whatever, but it happened. Those kind of things happen. Yeah. And at the time it could feel very personal, but it's not. They don't it's not personal because they don't know you. Like, so you're going to have people that are going to be like flat out, like, no. And then they're going to be a lot more than you'd be surprised that would say yes. So I would say, don't be afraid, just do it. Yeah. I think that's the entrepreneur, like, you got to be like, not afraid.
Exactly. You just have to jump into the pool and sink or swim and know it's not, I always say it's not about me. It's not personal, just like what you said. Yeah. And you're right. Sometimes you'll get some no's and that's okay. Sometimes it's taken me, and I know we've talked about this before, it's taken me like 2 years to get some of my guests on my show because I'm like, I really like that person. They were, too busy or whatever. They kept saying no. And then finally they said yes. And it's not personal. It's just business.
It's really not. Yeah. I think like so many things are really not personal. Yeah. But we take it personally because we're human, it happens, you know what I mean? Like things like kind of come and go. And then, but ultimately I think it's like not being afraid of that rejection or failure because it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. It's just, I love the saying, I think that if you don't try, you're 100% likely to fail.
Right. Exactly.
So
I
at
love
least
that.
50-50 is better, right?
Exactly. Yep. Just try and see what happens. I love
Yeah.
it. Oh my goodness. Well, I could just talk to you all afternoon. We do have to take a break, so we're going to do that now. Before we go to break, I would love to hear from you. You know, so many people are listening to this. Like I said earlier, some people are new, some people have been in business for years, but I know that we all get overwhelmed. And so just talking to that person that maybe is listening to this and they're feeling a little overwhelmed by this information, what would you say to them? What piece of hope would you want to leave them with as we go to break?
Is that nothing gets done in one day.
Yeah.
Everything is piece by piece. So just like really break it down. Like it's like when you're creating anything, when you're creating a house, like, and I think that that's because I've changed careers. I've realized that every career, everything that you see kind of like in its entirety. I know even with building, like even when you see an architecture building, you know, like all completed, it didn't start out like that. Like, you know, everything starts out piece by piece by piece. You need a bunch of pieces to finally come together eventually. Yeah. So nothing is done as a whole. It starts out building. It's all about building. So it's piece by piece, you know, and you might be also, it's time because like one day you might feel very overwhelmed. The next day you'll feel a little better. So it also depends on the timing of it.
Sure. I love that. And I always think of that saying, what is it? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's what it is. You just do one bite at a time, one foot in front of the other, and then you'll get there.
Although I love that. Elephants.
Me too. I don't want to eat one, but you know.
I
know. Oh my goodness. We're going to take a short break. So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to hear more from Michelle. We're going to talk practical tips on building your business as an aligned practitioner. So we'll be right back. Before we continue, I want to share a resource with you. If you're a beginner or a wellness professional who feels called to support fertility, but you're not quite sure how to actually turn that into a coaching offer or a business, well, I've created something to help you. It's called Fertility Coaching Roadmap. Inside, I walk you through step-by-step how to integrate fertility coaching into your current practice, transition into a virtual or online business, attract and enroll aligned clients, and create real lasting results. If you're ready for more clarity and direction, you can download the free roadmap in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. Hey, Michelle, welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be back.
Me too. So let's talk about practical tips. What are maybe your 3 to 5 things that you say these are non-negotiable things you need to do in your business as an aligned practitioner?
Well, you had mentioned one of them is really understanding the avatar. You've got to understand who you are talking to. So, you know, it's very important to get really clear on it. And I think that there's common misconceptions on, oh, I'm going to minimize the amount of people that I'm reaching, or it's weird to just focus on one person, but it really makes a difference. And I would focus on someone you really like or have a background talking to, or somebody that you can bring up in your memory, a person. And I personally picked a person that I worked with that I loved, you know, so it also made me feel at ease when I was talking to the camera. It was kind of like a little trick. So that I would say for sure. So that's, how many are we doing?
Yeah, maybe just like 3 to 5.
Okay, so the other thing I would say is content.
Yeah.
Lots of content, but even before the content aspect of it, I would say do a lot of research, follow a lot of people in the fertility world that you really admire and learn from them. Yeah. Listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos explaining like how fertility works in holistic ways and, you know, many different ways, because it's important to really learn, and then read books, you know, really get into it. Like, understand it a little bit more, so that when you are having to work with people, like you really know your stuff. It's important to really understand also the mentality. Like, I would say even go on Facebook groups and research what are top things that people are searching for, what keeps them up at night. Really understand the psyche of what it is that they're trying to resolve, which could be past, obviously, just trying to get pregnant. You know, beyond that, what else? I can stay organized. It's always really good to stay organized. Do one thing at a time. Don't go crazy. You can write yourself a huge list, but like really take it piece by piece. Don't overwhelm yourself, because sometimes the main message can get really lost. So it's important to, going back to the piece by piece aspect of it, really taking one thing at a time so that you don't feel overwhelmed and you don't burn yourself out. And work on your own energy, like I said before, because working on that energy, meditating, I'll be honest, I get the most creative ideas through sometimes journaling and meditating. That's kind of my yin practice, going inwards. When I do that, that's when I get inspired action. So inspired action, there's nothing that beats that. No AI could ever beat inspired action that comes from like the cosmic AI.
Yep, exactly. I love it. I love it. I know I've been doing this thing recently, working on my nervous system, where I do 2 minutes of silence, 2 minutes of humming, so you activate that vagus nerve, and then 2 minutes of just journaling, just write anything that comes to your head and get it out on paper. And it is so cool what pops up.
Love that.
It's just like, the powers and the divine being and God, everything is speaking to me and just goes out on the paper. So,
it's amazing. You
so
surprise yourself. You're like, where did this come from?
Right?
Whoa. I'm like, I'm not that smart. Like sometimes I'm like, I didn't come up with that. Like,
I know. Thanks, angels. I love it. And one thing we didn't touch on as being an aligned practitioner, talk to us about boundaries. How do we put clear boundaries in place for ourselves, but also with our clients and patients?
Oh, good question. Well, I love the fact that you said ourselves, because sometimes we can just work into the wee hours or weekends. And I think that really goes back to like carving out time to walk in nature and do things that make you happy, or really not working. Like there are times on the weekend that I'm like, I'm just not working. Like I've made that a mission. Like I'll get emails, people ask me and I'll say, I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. I'm not at my desk or whatever. And it was just like having those responses are boundaries for yourself and others. So having responses already crafted ahead of time. I mean, I get questions where people DM me on their whole full lab reports. And
Same.
what does this mean? And I'm like, well, I cannot give you medical advice. And if you'd like to work more, you'd have to, schedule a discovery call and we can talk about what I can help you with. But you have to, so sometimes that catches people off guard. So I would say have an answer already written, or that you can copy and paste, or that you can do the text replacement on Apple, which is the best thing ever, the text replacement. I use that also for my my Google form for my podcast. If people are reaching out and they seem interesting for podcast guests, so I put the Wholesome Fertility Podcast, no spaces, and it automatically populates my Google form. That's the text replacement. My daughter taught me about it, and I was like, this is like the best thing in the world.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know about text replacement.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. You can write a whole script of anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's on your phone?
Yeah. Oh yeah, on your phone. Go to settings, and then there's the keyboard, and then from keyboard text replacement, and then you have specific quote. You'd have to be very careful on what you do. You don't want to use just single words, because if you're texting and then that word comes out, it'll populate that whole thing.
No.
So what I usually do is I'll use a bunch of words, no space.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll do work email, like my work email. So I put work email, no space, and it'll populate my work email.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. A little
You
side
can
note,
do it
everybody.
For your bio, if you're putting that in,
Yeah.
or social media links, which I haven't done, but I should.
Yeah, I love it. Oh my goodness. Such good points. And I love everything that you said about boundaries. I think that's so important. And one thing I wanted to comment on too is sometimes it gets, it's hard to not work and to sit in silence and and that's your nervous system that's not used to that. So you start to feel uncomfortable doing that.
100%.
And so I also think that's a muscle that you have to build, and you have to teach yourself. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to pause and be off on a Sunday and not continuously work, especially as a new entrepreneur.
I love that you said that. It is. It really is a muscle, and that's why it's called a practice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my goodness, Michelle. Well, we could talk all day, but we do have to wrap up. So a couple things I want to do before we wrap up. First, I just want to say thank you for always being willing to come and share your knowledge and your gifts with us and with the world. So I really appreciate you.
Well, anytime I get to talk to you is such a pleasure for me. So I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Me too. I love it. And I also like to play a little game called our lightning round. And so I'm going to ask you some questions, and then you just say the first thing that comes to mind. Do you want to play?
Sure.
Okay. So what's one daily practice that grounds you?
Yoga.
I love yoga.
I love it.
How about a belief about your coaching business that you've had to unlearn?
That's a good one. I might have to think about that. I think that the belief is really not being afraid of failure, or like, that it's okay. It's okay to mess up. Like if I mess up, it's okay. Or actually, I have even a better one. Just because something didn't sell the first time doesn't mean I should just stop.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
How about, we touched on this for a second, but AI, yes, no, or you're still figuring it out?
Yes, but in balance. You have to lead the ship. If you treat it with the intention of this is my assistant, because guess what? People before AI used to hire copywriters. They used to hire people to create graphics for them. They used to hire, so there's, you could use it as an assistant, but you drive the ship. You cannot let it drive the ship. You still are the creator, and don't stop writing. I would say don't stop writing just for your own brain's sake. You could utilize it, but don't stop, still use your creativity and your
exactly.
thoughts.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love to use it to brainstorm, and then I take some of those brainstorm ideas and then I put my human brain on it and write,
Yeah.
So I think it's good for that. How about what's one investment that you made in your business that made the biggest difference?
It's a good question. I'm trying to think. I've had so many investments. I think that,
and it could also be not monetary, but a time investment or a practice that you've put into place that really helped you.
My podcast.
Yeah.
My podcast has been the best investment, and that was a time investment and money, obviously like all the things that I ordered for it or whatever, but it's definitely, and also the editors and,
yes.
But I'll say, honestly, the podcast has opened so many doors, and it was because it's such an amazing collaborative door opener. Like you're connecting with so many people. First of all, it got me to learn so much more on the fertility world. Things that I never knew even existed. And so that aspect of it was just priceless. So that aspect, and then also getting to know amazing people.
Yeah, same. The podcast is one of the most favorite things that I do. I love it. And so I guess that's why I continue to do it, because it's fun to me. It's not even like work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
How about one thing that you invested in that wasn't good, that you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that? And again, it doesn't have to be monetary. It can be any piece of your business where you're like, I probably
I would say PR.
PR.
I was like, I'll try this PR thing. And I was like, damn. I mean, listen, some companies did, help, but it was just a waste of money. It's a waste of money.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I constantly get emails about, we have a PR company, do this. I'm like, no.
No, it's such a waste of money.
Yeah. And then the last question, what's one piece of advice you have for your younger self?
That's a good question. My really younger self, everything's going to be okay. You're going to do great. Don't worry about it. Don't worry too much. You're going to be fine. Just trust. That's what I would say.
I love that. Amazing. Well, the last question before we wrap up, why should somebody think about becoming a certified fertility coach? I know you have a beautiful program in your own practice. We have a fertility coach certification program here. So talk to us about that. But why would somebody listening want to pursue this career as a certified fertility coach?
Well, of course, we all know you can be a coach of anything. It's such a gray area. There's no real, there's no licensing for it. You want to certify, though, because you want to get the correct training from people like you, or me, or people that know more or less what to do to improve fertility. But secondly, I do think that I feel like this is such a needed thing. It's just such a needed work. There's so many people out there that feel so lost. It's just horrible. Women are not taught about their bodies in high school. All of these things are totally brushed off. It's crazy to me how surprised people are when they find out how their bodies really work. And so many people make decisions that are really they're very counter to their reproductive health. Yeah. So I just feel like it's so needed. And there's so many people that really need that empowerment. And I personally think that the investment that people make in fertility coaching saves them money.
Yeah.
So it costs money, but it's going to save you money on doctors, the wrong doctors, wrong protocols, wrong things, because to have the guidance of at least knowing what questions to ask when you go to the doctor. And like, it's priceless, like literally priceless.
Yeah.
So it's really about empowerment. I think that, as a fertility coach, you are going to be empowering people, really, truly empowering them on their own fertility journey. It's one of the most rewarding work. And I feel like, let me get religious here, it's God's work.
Yeah. I feel like I was put on this earth to do this work. And again, it doesn't even feel like work when you're helping so many people and it's such an aligned thing, practice.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, tell everybody where they can find you. Michelle, where can they learn more about your work, and tell us about your free gift?
Thank you. So MichelleOravitz.com, you can find my book there, my podcast, and then my social media. If you scroll down, I'm usually on Instagram. That's where I usually hang out, at the Wholesome Lotus Fertility. I also have an in-person practice, and I have the ebook today. It's 5 things to consider when starting your fertility coaching business. So it's an ebook, and it's totally free. And you can get that at michelleoravitz.com/fertility coaching ebook.
Awesome.
And that is where that is.
And we'll put that in the show notes as well. So it'll be really easy to find that, as well as all of the rest of your links. And then you didn't say, but tell everybody the name of your podcast.
Oh, yes. It's the Wholesome Fertility Podcast.
And it's
been around since 2018.
Yeah, she's had some amazing episodes, so definitely go listen to Michelle's podcast. That's one of the first places that I met you. I think I reached out to you about coming on your podcast.
Exactly.
And now we're like great friends. I know.
100%. I'm so happy.
I love it. Well, any final thoughts? What do you want to say to the person listening who's thinking about becoming a certified fertility coach? What would you say to them?
Do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, you're going to be making back the investment that you're putting into it. So I think that's what makes it a little easier, like knowing that you can really do really well doing something that you love, and then doing it anywhere in the world. You can coach people while you're on vacation. Not that you'd want to do that, but you can travel. Like you have the freedom. It really gives you a lot of freedom. So it's just wonderful in that way, but then also you're getting freedom, and you're helping people. So I don't know what could be better.
Exactly. What could be better than that? I love it. Amazing. Well, thank you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you to everybody who's listening to this episode of the Fertility Coaching Mastery Podcast. We're so grateful that you're here. We hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you back here next week for another episode. So bye for now. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you've subscribed so you never miss a new one. And if you found this helpful, I would love for you to leave a review or share it with another practitioner who's ready to step into fertility coaching. You can also download the Fertility Coaching Roadmap in the show notes to start to build your next level of impact. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode. Because the world needs more supported fertility journeys and more practitioners like you leading the way.